So flights in the U.S. have been cancelled after airlines were asked to cut air traffic amid the ongoing government shutdown. Speaking on this, U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy has stated that the decision to cut the number of flights is about safety, not politics. U.S. President Donald Trump has announced that an international stabilization force for Gaza would be deployed very soon as part of his peace plan. The U.S. has drafted a UN Security Council resolution authorizing a 2-year mandate for transitional governance in Gaza and the ISF, which could use all necessary measures to fulfill its mission. Russia says it wants the United States to clarify recent remarks by U.S. President Donald Trump about the possible resumption of nuclear testing. Trump last week ordered U.S. military to immediately restart process for nuclear testing after a halt of 33 years. Republican Congresswoman Elise Stefanik has officially announced her campaign for New York governor. The Trump-aligned lawmaker seeks to challenge Governor Kathy Hochul in a race that could test GOP appeal in a predominantly Democratic state. The Trump administration announces that it would begin negotiations with China over its dominance in shipbuilding and ocean logistics. While pausing U.S. port fees on China-linked vessels for 1 year, the move formalized by the U.S. Trade Representative's office also invites public comments in early November. Georgian prosecutors have charged 8 opposition figures, including jailed ex-president Mikhail Saakashvili, on plotting to overthrow the government and aiding foreign powers, amid criticism by the EU, while the opposition has denounced the move as an attempt by the ruling Georgian Dream Party to impose a dictatorship as tensions escalate. Tesla boss Elon Musk has had a record-breaking pay package that could be worth nearly $1 trillion. Approved by shareholders, the scale of the potential payout has drawn criticism, but the Tesla board argued that Musk might leave the company if it was not approved. Now we start with Europe and U.S. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban is set to meet U.S. President Donald Trump at the White House, seeking exemptions from U.S. sanctions on Russian oil and to broker a possible summit between President Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin. Last month, the Trump administration had imposed sanctions on Russian energy giants Lukoil and Rosneft, exposing buyers such as India, China, and Hungary to secondary penalties. Orban, a close ally of both Trump and Putin, said Hungary would seek relief given its heavy reliance on Russian oil supplies through the Friendship Pipeline. Orban has said he expected friendly and easy negotiations, calling the meeting high stakes for Hungary's energy security. The visit would mark the first bilateral meeting between these two countries since Trump's return to the White House, as Orban seeks to position himself as a mediator in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Now for this discussion, we welcome Raymond Vickery. He's a former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Commerce, joins us live from Washington, D.C. Thank you very much, Raymond, for joining us again. Good to see you. Raymond, how could Hungary's pursuit of this meeting over the friendship with President Trump, do you think Viktor Orban could, we can only speculate here, but do you think he could lead his way or Hungary's way into exemption of continuing to buying or relying on Russian oil? And also, what do you think President Trump would do in such case? Could he allow such exemptions?
Well, thanks very much for having me. President Trump does not believe in relationships. What he believes in is a transaction. So instead of having a strategy and partners to face off against Putin and his most egregious breach of the principles of the United Nations in the 80-year history since there has been a UN, namely non-aggression against neighbors, instead of putting together the kind of coalition and working across the board, what he's doing is trying to make a transaction out of this. And he has, with Viktor Orban, one who is very amenable to this. It's a good thing that President Trump is remaining engaged, at least for the time being, in terms of Ukraine and the Russian invasion. But it's not good news that instead of working with partners across the board, he has chosen the one leader in Europe who sides most definitely with Putin. Will he make a deal with Orban? Trump is certainly capable of doing that. One can only hope that this approach will at least lead to some further interaction and talk that may lead to an amelioration of the invasion by Russia. But it is by no means a panacea or a strategy for ending this egregious invasion of Ukraine.
Yes, and do you think can Viktor Orban realistically bring Trump and Putin to the table? Or do you think Viktor Orban states these kind of things to gain attention or for his political gains? And if he could, what risks does Hungary face in positioning itself as a mediator between US and Russia?
Well, Orban is really a very small player in this. This really has to do with Trump and Putin. And both of these transactional leaders will simply use Orban for their own interests rather than Orban playing the role of mediators. It is in some instances a face-saving approach to be able to talk about Orban, but make no mistake about it, the President Trump approach and the Putin approach is one of what's in it for me. Unfortunately, Putin feels that his reputation, his grandeur is dependent upon this invasion. And Trump feels that his importance is only if he comes out winner on the top of the transaction. So Orban is a bit player in this drama, and it is encouraging that people will talk. As Churchill once said, jaw is better than war. Unfortunately, we have more war than talk and negotiation at this point, and it remains to be seen whether or not this impasse can be broken this way. I doubt it. It's going to take a strategy. It's going to take some real pressure on Putin. He is by no means willing to give up in terms of reinstituting the old Russian Empire, which became the Soviet Union, through military means.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Raymond, for sharing that insight. Please stay with us as we come back to you for our next discussion as well. Now, moving on, we stay in the region. Hundreds of flights have been canceled across the U.S. as the Trump administration orders reductions at major airports in response to a shortage of air traffic controllers who are working without pay due to the ongoing government shutdown. 40 airports, including major hubs like Atlanta, New York, and Los Angeles, are expected to slow operations. Flight cancellations are expected to reach up to 1,800 flights by next week. The shutdown, now entering its 6th week, has left many federal employees furloughed or working without pay. Airlines, including American, Delta, and Southwest, are already cutting hundreds of flights, causing significant disruptions. The Federal Aviation Administration has stressed that the reductions are aimed at preventing potential safety issues due to a strained system. Despite these disruptions, officials maintain that flying remains safe. Now for this discussion, we welcome back Raymond Vickery. He's a former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Commerce, joins us live from Washington, D.C. Thank you very much, Raymond, for staying with us. Raymond, are you actually surprised that U.S. government shutdown is going on or elongating for 6 weeks now? And how does this government shutdown, how has this exposed vulnerabilities in many U.S. sectors such as aviation and transportation infrastructure?
Well, I'm not surprised at all that it's gone on this long because the approach of the MAGA Republicans, the Make America Great Again faction of the Republican Party that supports Donald Trump, wants to bring down really the federal government. They've talked about destroying the deep state. They have attacked courts, and a part of that is to show that President Trump can govern without the traditional checks and balances which are in the U.S. Constitution. You know, the legislative branch and the judicial branch and the executive branch are supposed to be co-equal and act as checks and balances on each other. President Trump has not seen free to take that forward, and instead wants simply to override. And he has rightly discerned that because the chief issue in this checks and balances situation is health care. And the rise in premiums that is going to go on because of the big, beautiful bill that Trump put forward. So he has correctly diagnosed the problem. And instead, though, of trying to make it less of a difficulty for people in the United States, he's added to that, whether it be on assistance for food, the SNAP program, whether it be in regard to transportation. And his remedy is not to return to the path of co-equal branches and have negotiations, but he wants to do away with the filibuster, which requires a supermajority on many questions, and simply have his way imposed. That's his idea of winning, and that's what his transactional approach is all about. So I'm not surprised, but I am hopeful because of the election results which occurred on Tuesday, in which the Republican Trump forces suffered defeats across the board, that there will be moderates on both sides in the Senate, which will bring this to a close. But at this point, President Trump is not contributing to that at all. He fancies himself a great deal maker, but instead of trying to make a deal in this instance, he's simply saying my way or the highway, and that's the reason this shutdown has gone on as long as it has.
What do you think? What political strategies could resolve this particular U.S. shutdown in this case now?
I think moderates on both sides in the Senate are going to see that on health care there is a real problem with the raise in rates for insurance, and that millions and millions of people in the United States are going to be hurt by not being able to afford these rate increases. And I think that on both, at least in the moderate factions of the Republican and Democratic Party, there's a realization that this is not a winning situation for Republicans or Democrats. And I believe that there will be a deal made in which there is a promise of a vote on this issue, and that will be the way forward. It will not be a solution to the overall problem of how it is that we conduct a constitutionally mandated government in this country, a democracy which has served us for 250 years, but it will be a step forward and hopefully get us back on the path of constitutional government in conjunction with the midterms, which will come up next year.
Yes, and also going back to your first answer, you know how you said Trump says self-proclaimed, but he says he's good at making deals, and he made so many deals for Boeing this year. And don't you think his thought process doesn't take him to the fact that Boeing also makes money if the airlines and everything works, this air sector works, air traffic and this sector works well in or operates well inside of US as well. As you know, what's the point if he's making all these Boeing deals outside internationally with Qatar, Dubai and all these countries, but back home he's seeing this. How do you think he thinks about this?
Well, I believe you're absolutely right. Any person that's taking this logically and seeing it in a relationship understands the relationship between shutdown, between the production of aircraft, between the conduct of the air traffic controllers, and indeed the entire airplane system of commerce and movement of people in the United States. Those relationships, which you point out, rightly should be part of a decision. But that's not the thought process of our President Trump. Our President Trump sees it only in terms of a transaction, the way in which a real estate developer goes forward. If you want to get a building built, you focus on that building and what the deal is there. So he wants to come out on top of a transaction and be able to claim victory, regardless of the overall implications of what that decision is. And that is the weakness in this transactional approach to international affairs, to the shutdown. This government can't be done like a real estate developer who's looking at a one-off transaction in which you say, well, we made money or we lost money, therefore we won or we lost. That kind of mindset does not serve the public interest. It is not the way in which a democracy should work.
Yes, indeed. I always appreciate how you connect President Trump's real estate background to his current government strategies. Thank you very much, Raymond Vickery, for joining us as a former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Commerce, all the way from Washington. Now we move on to our next news. A Republican Congresswoman, Elise Stefanik, has officially announced her campaign for governor of New York. Stefanik, longtime supporter of Donald Trump, has been working behind the scenes to secure key endorsements from Republican leaders and local officials. She has represented her district in the U.S. House of Representatives for a decade and has recently intensified her attacks on Democratic Governor Kathy Hochul on social media. Stefanik has promoted her bid by criticizing Hochul's leadership and the state's high taxes, energy costs, and living expenses. Additionally, President Trump had also nominated Elise Stefanik to be U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, but the confirmation was stalled and later withdrawn. Meanwhile, Democrats have criticized her record, calling it quote-unquote ultra-MAGA and harmful to New York voters. Now we move on to our next news. Former Tennessee State House Speaker Glenn Casada and his ex-chief of staff, Kate Cawthorn, have been pardoned by President Donald Trump after being convicted on public corruption charges. The two men were sentenced to prison in September, with Casada receiving 3 years and Cawthorn 2.5 years. The case centered on their involvement in a scheme to secure taxpayer-funded mail business from lawmakers. The White House has criticized the Biden administration's prosecution, calling it an overreach for what they described as a minor issue, involving less than $5,000 in financial loss. Prosecutors had uncovered fraudulent mailer claims linked to fictitious company Phoenix Solutions, which resulted in taxpayer money being misused. Trump has previously pardoned government figures who were convicted of corruption-related offenses. Now we move on to our next news. Tesla shareholders have approved a record-breaking $1 trillion compensation plan for CEO Elon Musk, the largest corporate payout in history if he meets its stringent performance goals. More than 75% of investors have backed the package at Tesla's annual meeting in Austin, Texas, despite strong opposition from some major shareholders who called it excessive and risky. The plan, split into 12 tranches, would grant Musk up to 12% additional ownership if he drives Tesla to an $8.5 trillion market cap and sustains hundreds of billions in earnings over the next decade. Musk said the package would ensure his control over Tesla as it expands into robotics and artificial intelligence, calling the company's Optimus robot the future of humanity. Now for this discussion, we welcome Peter Cardillo. He's the Chief Market Economist of Spartan Capital Securities, joins us live from New York. Thank you very much, Peter, for joining us again. Peter, now looking at this, what economic implications does this $1 trillion compensation package have for Tesla's corporate governance standards and income inequality?
Yeah, well, obviously it's an historic deal here, and the other thing is that 75% of the shareholders voted in favor, so it wasn't a close call, and it means that the shareholders are very much in favorable of this, and it's something that will go down in the history books, and of course people have a lot of faith in Mr. Musk, and you might say that it shows how the rich get richer, and so we just have to wait and see how it plays out. How can it affect? Obviously, it's a big number. How is it going to affect the company's financials going forward? Well, we'll have to see. Obviously, as you know, it's not based on just one company. It's a package that includes the other companies as well. So shareholders seem to have a strong favorable opinion on it.
And does tying executive pay to extreme performance targets create sustainable growth incentives or risky market distortions?
Well, I'm not sure if you're going to see market distortions, but obviously, like I said, it's something that has to play out. In a booming economy, and if he is correct with his projections and many of the companies that he has, then it'll probably pan out well. If not, it could be a problem, a big problem.
Right. With that, I would like to thank Peter Cardillo for joining us as a Chief Market Economist of Spartan Capital Securities from New York. Thank you very much. Now we move on to our next news. Thank you. U.S. President Donald Trump has once again reiterated his demand to terminate filibuster on a Truth Social post Trump has posted, saying no nuclear option, terminate the filibuster. Earlier on Wednesday, at a breakfast with Senate Republicans, Trump renewed his calls to end the government shutdown by getting rid of the filibuster and lowering the threshold to 51 votes for legislation. To inform our viewers, filibuster is a parliamentary tool that attempts to delay, halts actions on most bills unless 60 senators in the 100-member chamber vote to move forward. The earliest filibusters also led to the first demands, what is now called cloture, a method for ending debate and bringing a question to a vote. And that's a wrap on America 360. Keep watching news.